The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than any building on Earth. Its walls stretched up so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Strange lights floated in the air like tiny stars, and the air itself seemed to hum with alien energy. Lieutenant Nari stood in the center of the hall. She was small compared to everything around her. At 26 years old, she was barely 5 feet and 4 inches tall. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. Her brown eyes looked calm, but inside her heart was beating fast. Around her sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy. They were not human. They were nothing like human. The Vextari looked like giant bugs. Their leader, Prime Kexter, was 12 feet tall. His body was covered in hard green armor that looked like it could stop bullets. His arms ended in sharp blades instead of hands. When he moved, those blades made a sound like knives being sharpened. His big, round eyes stared down at Nari like she was a tiny insect. The Solarans were made of living crystal. Their speaker, High-Form Zell Rex, looked like a walking diamond. Light bounced off his body in rainbow colors. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. He was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The Nethrix were the strangest of all. They had no solid bodies. Lord Vexno looked like purple smoke with glowing eyes. Sometimes he became solid, sometimes he became gas. When he laughed, it sounded like steam escaping from a pipe. These 3 races ruled the galaxy. They had been in space for thousands of years when humans were still living in caves. They had conquered worlds and built empires. They were the apex predators of the universe, and they were not happy with humanity. "Humans," Prime Kextor said, his voice clicking like an angry insect. "You are new. You are weak. You do not belong in civilized space." Borum, the human ambassador, stepped forward. She was older than Nari, with gray hair and worried eyes. She had been trying to make peace with the aliens for 3 years. It was not going well. "Honored Council," Borum said, her voice shaking slightly. "Humans have proven themselves. We have built great ships. We have traveled to distant stars. Yeah. We have knowledge to share with the galaxy." High-Form Zelrex made a sound like breaking glass. It might have been laughter. "Ship's knowledge. These things mean nothing. Any race can build machines. Any fool can copy technology. What matters is strength. What matters is the ability to survive. Humans are weak," Lord Vexnal said. His voice was like a whisper that somehow filled the entire hall. "They have soft skin. They break easily. They live short lives. They are not worthy to stand with the great races." Nari listened to all of this without changing her expression. She had heard it before. Every alien race they had met said the same thing. Humans were too small, too weak, too soft. They belonged back on their little blue planet, playing with their primitive toys. But Nari knew something the aliens did not understand. Being small did not mean being weak. Being soft did not mean being helpless. Humans had their own kind of strength. Prime. Kextor stood up. His full height was terrifying. His blade arms caught the light and threw it back like mirrors. There is only one way to prove worth in this galaxy. The arena of Dominion. Let your strongest warrior face our champions. If they survive, humans may stay. If they die, humans must leave civilized space forever. The arena of Dominion was famous throughout the galaxy. It was a place where only the strongest fought. Every race sent their best warriors there. The arena had seen 1,000 battles over the centuries. It was where legends were made and species proved their right to exist. Borum's face went pale. The arena? But no human has ever survived more than a few minutes against even one of your champions. You're asking us to send someone to die. That is the point, High-Form Zelrex said. The crystals in his body flashed brighter. If humans cannot survive in the arena, they cannot survive in the galaxy. It is natural selection on a cosmic scale. Nari had been quiet until now. She stepped forward. "I will fight." The hall became silent. Even the floating lights seemed to dim Borum. Turned to look at her. "Nari, no. You can't. They'll kill you." "Maybe," Nari said. Her voice was calm and steady. "But someone has to try. I volunteer." Prime Kextor looked down at her. If he had lips, he would have been smiling. You, a small human female? This is either very brave or very stupid. Probably both, Nari replied. Lord Vexnil's form became more solid. He seemed interested now. What weapons do you choose? What armor do you request? What advantages do you need? Nari thought about this. In the arena, fighters were allowed to choose their equipment. Most aliens chose powerful energy weapons, force fields, and armor that could stop explosions. The arena had seen plasma cannons, gravity hammers, and shields that could turn aside laser beams. I want a combat knife, Nari said, and standard body armor. Nothing else. The aliens looked at each other. They spoke in their own languages, making sounds like breaking glass, clicking insects, and whistling wind. A knife? Prime Kextor asked against our champions? This is suicide, perhaps Nari said, but these are my terms. High-form Zelrex's crystals flashed in what might have been amusement. Very well, but we offer you one more choice. You may face one champion. Is traditional, or, Nari asked. Or you may face all three at once. This has not been attempted in over 1,000 years. No being has ever survived it. But if you somehow did, it would prove human worth beyond all doubt. The hall became quiet again. Grab Nari's arm. Don't even think about it. One champion is already impossible. 3 is certain death. Nari looked up at the 3 alien leaders. She thought about Earth, about the billions of humans who would be forced to leave the galaxy. If she failed, she thought about her training, about everything she had learned about fighting and surviving. I choose 3, she said. The aliens made sounds that might have been surprise, respect, or hunger. They were excited now. This would be a show unlike any they had seen? So be it, Prime Kextor said. In 3 days you will face our champions. Krixvac of the Vextari, his Prism Shard of the Solarians, Wraith Mist of the Nethrix. They have never been defeated. They have never been injured. Are the perfect killers. We shall see, Nari said. As the council ended, Borum pulled Nari aside. What are you thinking? This is madness. You can't possibly win. Nari looked at her friend and colleague. You're right. I probably can't win, but I can try. And sometimes, trying is enough. She walked away, leaving Borum staring after her. In 3 days, she would enter the arena. In 3 days, she would face 3 perfect killers with nothing but a knife and her human will to survive. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were really capable of. The arena of Dominion was a massive circle carved from black stone. It was 1 mile wide and surrounded by walls that rose up like cliffs. Thousands of aliens sat in the stands, watching and waiting. The air buzzed with excitement and bloodlust. Above the arena, huge screens showed every angle of the fighting ground. Alien commentators spoke in dozens of languages, but they all said the same thing. A human was about to die in the most spectacular way possible. Nari stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena. The room was small and gray, with only a bench and a mirror. She could hear the crowd above, their voices mixing into a sound like ocean waves. Min-Ho. Her tactical advisor paced back and forth. He was a thin man with nervous eyes and quick hands. He had studied every battle in the arena for the past month. The numbers were not good. This is insane, Minho said for the 10th time. No one has ever faced 3 champions at once. No one has even survived facing one. The last human who tried lasted exactly 47 seconds. Nari sat on the bench, checking her equipment. Her combat knife was simple but sharp. Her body armor was standard military issue, designed to stop bullets and shrapnel. Against alien claws and energy weapons, it would be like wearing paper. Tell me about them again, Nari said calmly. Minho stopped pacing. He pulled out a data tablet and began reading. Krixvac of the Vextari. 12 feet tall, exoskeleton harder than steel. His arms end in natural blades that can cut through titanium. He's fought 47 times and won every match. Fight lasted 3 minutes. Nadi nodded. She had seen videos of HFY fighting. He moved like lightning, striking faster than most beings could see. His victims usually died before they knew the fight had started. Prism Shard of the Solarans, Minho continued. Living crystal can reshape his body at will. He shoots crystal spears that travel faster than bullets. His body is harder than diamond. He's fought 32 times, never been scratched. His specialty is impaling opponents from long range. Nari had watched Prism Shard fight too. He was beautiful and terrible, like a living rainbow that killed everything it touched. His crystal spears could punch through armor like it was air. And Wraith Mist of the Nethrix, Minho finished. Gas form can become solid or vapor at will. Strangles opponents with toxic clouds. 51 fights, 51 victories. Most of his opponents suffocate before they can even touch him. Wraith Mist was the worst of all. How do you fight something made of poison gas? How do you hit something that could become smoke? They're perfect killers, Minho said quietly. Each one is designed to kill in a different way. Together, they cover every possible weakness. Ari stood up and walked to the mirror. She looked at herself, a small human woman with dark hair and tired eyes. She looked fragile compared to the monsters she was about to face. There's something else, Minho said. I've been studying the arena itself. It's designed to favor the alien champions. The floor is smooth stone, no cover. The walls are too high to climb. There are energy barriers that prevent escape. It's a killing box. Good, Nari said. Minho stared at her. Good? How's that good? Because it means they're not used to prey that fights back intelligently. They're used to brute force contests. Raw power against raw power. Above them, the crowd began to roar. The time had come. Nari walked to the lift that would take her to the arena floor. As the platform rose, she could see the massive space opening up around her. The stands were packed with aliens of every type. They were all here to watch her die. The lift stopped at arena level. The gates were still closed, but Nari could hear sounds from the other side, scraping like claws on stone, humming like electricity building up, whispers like wind through graves. The arena announcer's voice boomed across the space. It spoke in the common galactic language, but translators made sure everyone understood. Citizens of the galaxy. Today we witness something that has not been seen for 1,000 years. Single warrior faces 3 champions. From the primitive world of Earth, fighting for the survival of her species, we present the human Nari. The gate in front of Nari began to open. Light poured in from the arena and her opponents, the undefeated champions of the 3 greatest races. 3 more gates opened around the arena. From each one, death emerged. HFY came first. Was even bigger than Nari had expected. His green exoskeleton gleamed under the arena lights. His blade arms were longer than Nari's entire body. When he moved, his feet made sounds like hammers hitting stone. His compound eyes fixed on Nari immediately, tracking her like a predator watching prey. Prism Shard emerged like a living rainbow. His crystal body caught the light and threw it back in brilliant flashes. As Nari watched, he reshaped himself, growing longer arms and sharper edges. Crystal spears began forming around him, floating in the air like deadly ornaments. Wraith Mist was the most terrifying. It came out as a cloud of purple gas, then slowly took shape. His form was not quite solid, not quite vapor. His eyes glowed like stars in the darkness. When he laughed, the sound echoed off the arena walls, like the voices of the dead. The crowd went wild. They had never seen all 3 champions together. This was history in the making. Nari stepped into the arena. Compared to the 3 monsters facing her, she looked like a child with a toy knife. The crowd's roar became laughter. This would be over quickly, but Nari was not looking at the crowd. She was studying her opponents. She watched how they moved, how they positioned themselves, how they reacted to each other's presence. HFY was impatient. He wanted to rush forward and cut her down immediately. His claws scraped the stone as he held himself back, waiting for the signal to begin. Prism Shard was calculating. He was already selecting the best angles for his crystal spears. He moved in perfect geometric patterns, like a living equation designed to solve the problem of killing. Wraith Mist was patient. He knew his poison clouds would do the work for him. He just had to wait for the right moment to release them. The three champions spread out, forming a triangle around Nari. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The arena was designed to be a perfect killing ground. The announcer's voice boomed again. "Let the battle begin." A horn sounded across the arena. The crowd fell silent. Nadashirai drew her knife. The three apex predators began to move, and for the first time in galactic history, a human stood alone against the perfect killers of three worlds. The galaxy was about to learn what humans meant when they said they refused to surrender. The moment the horn sounded, Krixvac attacked. He moved like lightning, his massive form covering the distance to Nari in 3 giant steps.
Ow.
His blade arms came down in a killing strike that would have cut her in half, but Nari was not there. She had moved at the exact moment Krixvac committed to his attack. Not away from him, but to the side and forward. She used his own speed against him, letting his momentum carry him past her. The crowd gasped. They had expected her to run backward to try to escape. Instead, she had moved toward danger. Krixvac's blades hit the stone floor where Nari had been standing. Sparks flew as the razor-sharp edges scraped across the rock. He spun around, confused and angry. But Nari was already moving again. She had positioned herself so that Krixvac was between her and the other 2 champions. This was not an accident. Prism Shard had been preparing his crystal spears. He launched them at Nari with deadly precision. But she was directly behind Krixvac now. The crystal spears struck the Vextaria's back armor instead. The crystals shattered against Krixvac's hard shell. But the impact drove him forward. He stumbled and fell to one knee. "Fool!" Krixvac roared at Prism Shard. "Watch where you aim. Stay still and I will not miss." Prism Shard replied, his voice like breaking glass. Nari smiled. They were already starting to get in each other's way. Wraith Mist decided to end this quickly. He became a cloud of purple gas and began to spread across the arena floor. The poison would reach Nari no matter where she moved, but Nari had studied the arena carefully. She remembered what Minho had told her about the energy barriers. They were not just in the walls, they were also in the floor, creating a grid pattern of invisible force fields. She reached into her belt and pulled out a small device. It looked like a simple flashlight, but it was actually an emergency flare. She activated it and threw it at the nearest energy barrier. The flare exploded against the invisible wall. The energy discharge created a powerful updraft of hot air. The wind scattered Wraith Mist's poison cloud before it could reach her. "Impossible," Wraith Mist hissed. "How did you know?" Nari did not answer. She was already moving to the next phase of her plan. Krixvac had recovered from his fall, was angry now. An angry Vextari made mistakes. He charged at Nari again, his blade swinging wildly. This time Nari ran toward the arena wall. Krixvac followed, thinking he had her trapped. But at the last second, she dropped to the ground and rolled to the side. Krixvac could not stop his charge. His blade struck the arena wall with tremendous force. The impact sent shockwaves through the structure, but more importantly, his blades became stuck in the stone. He pulled and tugged, but the wall held his arms tight. He was trapped. Prism Shard saw his chance. He began forming more crystal spears, this time aimed at Nari while she was on the ground. But Nari had planned for this too. She pulled out another device from her belt. This one was a small mirror, standard equipment in human survival kits. She angled it to catch the arena lights and reflected them directly into Prism Shard's crystal body. The effect was immediate. Prism Shard's body began to glow and heat up. Crystals conducted light very well, but they also absorbed it. Too much light meant too much energy. "What are you doing?" Prism Shard demanded, his voice rising in pitch. "Feeding you," Nari said. Simply, she had positioned herself near one of the arena's main light sources. By reflecting the concentrated beam into Prism Shard's body, she was overloading him with energy. His crystal form began to crack and split. Wraith Mist tried to help by creating a cloud to block the light. But Nari was ready for that too. She had one more flare. She threw it into the gas cloud. The explosion scattered wraith mist again and created more light. Even more energy poured into Prism Shard's overloaded body. The crowd was on its feet now. They had never seen anything like this. The human was not trying to overpower her opponents. She was making them defeat themselves. Hugh, a human scientist, watching from the viewing area, began to understand what he was seeing. "She's not fighting them," he whispered to his companion. "She's solving them." "What do you mean?" asked Taeho, a military officer. "Each alien is designed to be a perfect predator," Hyen Wu explained. "But they're designed to hunt prey that runs away or fights back with brute force. They don't know how to handle prey that thinks." In the arena, Nari was proving this point. She moved constantly, never staying in one place long enough for any of her opponents to pin her down. Every move she made served multiple purposes. When Krixvac finally freed his blades from the wall, though he was exhausted and furious, he swung at Nari with everything he had, but she was no longer where he expected her to be. She had learned his attack. Patterns of Extory were fast, but they were also predictable. They always attacked in the same sequence: right arm, left arm, both arms together. It was built into their biology. Nari ducked under his right arm, stepped inside his left arm swing, and then rolled away before he could bring both arms down. She made it look easy, but it required perfect timing and complete understanding of her opponent. Prism Shard was in serious trouble. His body was glowing white-hot from the energy overload. Cracks were spreading through his crystal form. Tried to reshape himself to disperse the energy, but Nari kept the light focused on him. "Stop," Prism Shard cried. "You will destroy me." "That's the idea," Nari replied. She had positioned herself so that Prism Shard was between her and Wraith Mist. The heat from the overloaded crystal was creating powerful air currents. Every time Wraith Mist tried to form a coherent gas cloud, the rising hot air scattered him. The three champions were no longer working together. They were getting in each other's way, interfering with each other's attacks, growing more frustrated by the second. This was exactly what Nari had planned. 4. Humans had spent millions of years as prey animals. They had learned to survive by being smarter than their predators, not stronger. They had developed the ability to think several steps ahead, to turn their enemies' strengths into weaknesses. Nari was not just fighting three aliens. She was conducting a symphony of destruction, using their own abilities against them. Krixvac made another wild swing. Nari guided him toward Prism Shard's position. The Vextari's blade passed through the superheated crystal. The thermal shock caused a massive explosion. Crystal fragments flew everywhere. Some hit Krixvac, others hit Wraith Mist. But Nari had taken cover behind a piece of arena debris. When the explosion cleared, Prism Shard was gone. His body had shattered into 1,000 pieces. 1 down. 2 to go. The crowd was silent now. They were witnessing something impossible. Human was winning. Nari stood up, her knife still in her hand. She had not used it yet, but she would before. This fight was over. Krixvac and Wraith Mist looked at the crystal fragments scattered across the arena floor. Their perfect teammate was dead. For the first time in their lives, they felt something new. They felt afraid. The arena floor was covered with glittering crystal fragments. Each piece caught the light like a tiny star. In the center of this deadly rainbow, Nari stood, breathing hard but steady. Sweat ran down her face, but her eyes remained focused and alert. Krixvac stared at the scattered remains of Prism Shard. His compound eyes reflected the light from 1,000 crystal pieces. For 47 fights, he had never seen a champion die. Now his teammate was nothing but broken glass. It's impossible. He clicked in his insect language. Prism Shard was perfect. Crystal cannot be destroyed. "Everything can be destroyed," Nari said quietly. "You just have to know how." Wraith Mist's gaseous form rippled with what might have been fear. He had been alive for 300 years. He had killed 51 opponents without ever being touched. But this small human had just done something that should not be possible. "You got lucky," Wraith Mist hissed. "Luck will not save you from both of us." Nari did not reply. She was studying her remaining opponents, looking for weaknesses. 2 down to 2. The odds were getting better, but she was also getting tired. Humans had one advantage that most aliens did not understand. They could keep going when their bodies told them to stop. On Earth, early humans had hunted by running their prey to exhaustion. They were not the fastest or strongest, but they never gave up. Nari felt that ancient strength flowing through her veins. Her ancestors had chased mammoths across frozen plains. They had hunted giant bears with nothing but stone spears, had survived ice ages and disasters that destroyed other species. She was their daughter. She would not quit. Crixvac decided to end this quickly. He raised his blade arms and charged across the arena. But this time, he was not thinking clearly. Anger had made him stupid. Nari had been waiting for this moment. She had studied Vextari psychology during her preparation. When they became angry, they forgot their training. They relied on instinct instead of skill. And instinct could be predicted. As Crixvac charged, Nari ran toward the arena wall, but not directly. She moved in a curved path, forcing him to adjust his angle of attack. This made him slower and less balanced. When he was 3 steps away, Nari suddenly stopped and dropped to one knee. She had positioned herself next to one of the crystal fragments from Prism Shard's destruction, a long sharp piece that stuck up from the floor like a sword. Crixvac could not change direction fast enough. His own momentum carried him forward, and his right blade arm struck the crystal fragment. The impact drove the sharp crystal deep into the joint where his arm connected to his body. Green blood sprayed across the arena floor. Crixvac screamed in pain and rage. He had never been injured before. The sensation was new and terrifying, but Nari was not done. She grabbed the crystal fragment and twisted it. The sharp edge cut through tendons and muscle. Crixvac's right arm went limp and useless. "Now you know how it feels," Nari said. She rolled away as Crixvac swung his remaining blade arm at her. But fighting with only one arm threw off his balance. He stumbled and fell, his massive weight shaking the arena floor. Wraith Mist saw his chance. While Nari was focused on Crixvac, he began to surround her with poison gas. His body spread out like fog, becoming thinner but covering more area. "You cannot run from gas," Wraith Mist whispered. "You cannot hide from death itself." The purple cloud began to close in around Nari. She felt the first effects of the poison burning eyes, difficult breathing, dizziness. A normal being would have panicked or tried to run, but Nari had trained. For this, human military forces had faced chemical weapons before. They had learned to fight through poison, to function even when their bodies were failing. More importantly, she understood something about Wraith Mist that he did not realize. To maintain his gas form over a large area, he had to spread himself thin. And when he was thin, he was vulnerable. Nari reached into her belt and pulled out her last piece of equipment. It was a small device that looked like a metal tube. Human armies, it was called a flashbang grenade, created a bright light and loud sound to confuse enemies. But Nari had modified it. She had added chemicals that would react with the gases in the atmosphere. When it exploded, it would create a chain reaction. She activated the device and threw it into the center of Wraith Mist's cloud form. The explosion was spectacular. Light blazed across the arena like a miniature sun. The chemical reaction ignited the gases in Wraith Mist's body, creating a firestorm that spread through his entire form. Wraith Mist screamed, a sound like steam escaping from a broken pipe. His gas form began to burn and collapse. He tried to pull himself together, but the fire was spreading too fast. In desperation, he solidified his body to escape the flames. But this was exactly what Nari had been waiting for. The moment Wraith Mist became solid, Nari struck. She had been moving through the burning gas, ignoring the pain and damage to her own body. Her knife found the center of his form, a small, dense core that maintained his consciousness. The blade went in clean and deep. Wraith Mist's eyes went wide with shock and disbelief. No one had ever found his core before. No one had ever gotten close enough to strike it. "How?" he gasped. "How did you know?" "I watched," Nari said simply. "I learned. I adapted." Wraith Mist's form began to dissolve. Without his core, he could not maintain coherence. He became smoke and scattered on the arena winds to down Nari. turned to face Krixvac, who was struggling to stand with his wounded arm. Her own body was damaged too. The poison gas had burned her lungs and skin. She moved more slowly now, but she was still standing.
What?
Impossible, Krixvac clicked. You are just a human. You are weak. You are prey. Onari said, raising her knife. I am the thing that hunted your nightmares. The crowd was completely silent now. They had watched their greatest champions fall to a being they had considered inferior. Some aliens were beginning to understand that they had been wrong about humans. Su-Jin, a human medical officer in the viewing area, watched with professional concern. Her vital signs are dropping, she reported. She's been poisoned. And injured, she needs medical attention. She needs to finish this first, said Teho grimly. On the arena floor, the final battle was about to begin. Krixvac had one good arm left, but he was still 12 feet tall and armored like a tank. Nari had her knife and her human refusal to surrender, but something had changed in the fight. Nari was no longer the hunted. She had become the hunter, and every predator in the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. Krixvac raised his remaining blade arm. Nari gripped her knife. Tighter. The last dance was about to begin. Krixvac and Nari circled each other in the center of the arena. The floor was covered with crystal fragments, burn marks, and green blood. The air still smelled of poison and fire. This was no longer a sporting match. This was a fight for survival. Krixvac's right arm hung useless at his side, green blood still dripping from the wound. But his left blade arm was intact and deadly. One good strike would still be enough to kill the small human. Nari moved carefully. The poison gas had damaged her lungs, making every breath painful. Her body was covered in burns and cuts. But her eyes were still sharp, still watching, still learning. You cannot win, Krixvac clicked. I am Vextari. I'm Apex Predator. You are just meat, maybe Nari said. But this meat has already killed two of your perfect champions. She was right, and Krixvac knew it. For the first time in his life, doubt crept into his mind. How had this soft creature defeated Prism Shard and Wraithmist? How was she still standing? The answer was simple, though Krixvac did not understand it. Humans were not just persistence hunters. They were learning machines. Every fight taught them something new. Every challenge made them adapt. Nari had been studying Krixvac throughout the entire battle. She knew his attack patterns, his weaknesses, his psychology. Now she was ready to use that knowledge. Krixvac lunged forward with his good arm. Nari did not dodge this time. Instead, she stepped into the attack, moving closer to danger instead of away from it. The blade passed over her head as she ducked low. She was now inside Krixvac's reach, where his long arms could not strike effectively. Her knife flashed upward, cutting into the soft joint where his leg connected to his body. Krixvac screamed and stumbled backward. Green blood poured from the new wound. His leg could barely support his weight. Impossible, he roared. You are too small, too weak. Size does not matter, Nari said. Speed does not matter. Strength does not matter. What matters is refusing to give up. She moved around him like a wolf circling a wounded elk. Every few seconds, she darted in to make another cut. Each wound was small, but they added up. Was bleeding from a dozen places now. The crowd watched in stunned silence. They had come to see a human die quickly and dramatically. Instead, they were watching their greatest champions slowly bleed to death. In the viewing area, the alien leaders were having an emergency discussion. This cannot be happening. Prime Kexter clicked frantically. Krixvac has never lost. He cannot lose to a human, yet he is losing. High-form Zelrex observed. His crystal body flickered with confused patterns. Perhaps we have underestimated this species. Lord Vexnell was silent. His gaseous form had become very still. He was thinking about what he had just witnessed. A single human had defeated their three greatest champions, using nothing but intelligence and determination. On the arena floor, Krixvac was getting desperate. He swung his blade arm wildly, trying to catch Nari with a lucky strike. But desperation made him even more predictable. Nari waited for the right moment. When Krixvac overextended himself with a particularly wild swing, she moved. She grabbed his wounded right arm and used it to climb onto his back. Krixvac tried to shake her off, but his injured leg gave out. He fell forward onto his knees. Nari rode him down, her knife poised above the gap in his armor at the base of his skull. "Yield," she said quietly. Krixvac went very still. In Vextari culture, yielding meant admitting defeat. It meant accepting that you were not the apex predator you thought you were. It was the ultimate humiliation, but the alternative was death. "I yield," Krixvac whispered. The arena fell completely silent. Not a single voice could be heard among the thousands of spectators. Even the alien commentators had nothing to say. Na reclimbed down from Krixvac's back. She walked to the center of the arena and raised her knife above her head. The blade caught the light and threw it back like a beacon. Still, no one made a sound. The silence stretched on and on. It was not the silence of shock or confusion. It was the silence of respect. The silence that comes when you witness something that changes everything you thought you knew. Finally, a single voice broke the quiet. It was Teho, the human military officer in the viewing area. "Well done, Lieutenant," he said over the communication. System. Those simple words seemed to break a spell. Suddenly, the arena erupted in sound. But it was not the bloodthirsty roaring from before. It was something different, something that had never been heard in the arena of Dominion. It was applause. Aliens, who had come to watch a human die, were now clapping for her victory. They were witnessing the birth of a legend. Su-Jin. The human medical officer rushed onto the arena floor with her emergency kit. Nari was still standing, but barely. The poison and injuries were taking their toll. "You need immediate treatment," Su-Jin said as she began examining Nari's wounds. "Is it over?" Nari asked weakly. "Yes," Su-Jin replied. "You won. You actually won." Nari looked around the arena. Crystal fragments sparkled like stars. The remains of wraith mist had blown away. On the wind, Krixvac knelt in a pool of his own blood, defeated but alive. 3 apex predators had entered the arena. Only one had walked out under her own power. In the viewing area, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. The 3 alien leaders spoke in hushed tones, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The humans, Prime Kextor said slowly. "We were wrong about them. Completely wrong." High-Form Zellerex agreed. "They are not weak. They are not prey. They are something else entirely." "They are what happens when prey evolves into predator," Lord Vexnell whispered. "They are what happens when intelligence becomes a weapon." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not only remain in civilized space, but would be offered full membership in the Galactic Council. They had earned their place through combat, the oldest and most respected way. As medical teams carried Krixvac away on a stretcher, the alien spectators began to leave. They filed out in complete silence, each one lost in their own thoughts about what they had seen. Dayun, a human journalist, was already composing her report to Earth. Today she wrote, "Humanity proved that we belong among the stars. Not because we are the strongest, or the fastest, or the toughest, but because when faced with impossible odds, we do the one thing that separates us from every other species in the galaxy. We refuse to accept that anything is truly impossible." Nari was helped off the arena floor by the medical team. As she passed through the gates, she looked back one more time at the place where she had fought for the future of her species. The arena was empty now except for the cleaning crews who had come to collect the crystal fragments. Soon there would be no trace of the battle except in the memories of those who had witnessed it, but those memories would last forever. Word of the human victory would spread across the galaxy within days. Every species would hear the story of the small woman who faced 3 apex predators with nothing but a knife and her human will to survive. Some would not believe it. Others would dismiss it as lucky, but the wise ones would understand the truth. Humanity had not won through strength or speed or natural weapons. They had won through something much more dangerous. They had won through the refusal to surrender. and that made them the most terrifying predators the galaxy had ever seen. As Nari was taken to the medical bay, her last conscious thought was of Earth, her blue and green world, where humans had learned to survive against all odds. She had carried that world spirit into the arena with her, and she had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human